Life and literacy. Literacy means to be knowledgeable on a certain medium of life. One of, if not the most important thing to be literate in, is reading and writing. My journey to literacy in reading and writing has not always been an easy one, but I'd like to take you along with me as we explore my rise to being literate. Literacy has played a huge role in my life, especially reading. It always been an escape for me from the outside world. Even though I love reading, I wasn't able to read fluently until I was about 10 years old. My literacy at that age has affected my writing greatly. I've always struggled to get my ideas on paper. While I always struggle, my mom was always there along the way to sit and read with me, help me write, and to this day we still read together. Though reading and writing were large struggles for me, they continue to make me grow as a person. It has continued to grow the bond between my mother and I through reading. When I was younger, around the age of 10, I had very bad ADHD, which went undiagnosed for most of my life. And where I lived at the time, I had very bad teachers who had failed me time and time and again. It was to a point I was there every day after school trying to get help from my teachers. A turning point for me was my second grade teacher. I'd stayed every day for 2 weeks. She had attempted to help me. One day, she just gave up. Just started sending me to the library, said you can learn better there. Many parent-teacher conferences stemmed from that. Most of my teachers had given up on me when I was a student in 3rd and 4th grade. I don't blame them. It was hard to work with me. I would never be able to focus. I would get irritable when they tried to get me to focus. At the end of my 4th grade year, I could barely read and I'd struggled to write. At that moment in time, I had given up on myself. My mom was the only one who had hope in teaching me how to read. My mom had finally had enough and put 100% of her efforts into helping me learn to read. My mom had made it her goal to get me to read a book by the end of my 4th grade year. From that moment on, we had stayed up every night for hours, many nights of yelling, crying. We didn't end up accomplishing the goal of the book by the end of the year, but we did get it done by the end of the summer. By that time of year, I had started my second book that I had ever read. 5th grade was a big year, and I had one of the worst teachers ever, and I was put in an accelerated class last minute due to my dad switching jobs. My teacher had little sympathy for me and my situation, and the school couldn't switch me classes due to the size. Just when I was getting my leg up, I was going to be starting behind again. Though my reading greatly improved in 5th grade, it was a big grammar year in preparation for middle school, and my mom and I ended up with a task on our hands. I had to write my first paper. In hindsight, I probably could have failed the assessment and still gone on, but I would have been very behind in school. Halfway through the year, I was reading on grade level, but I still had many complications with writing. The disconnect between my mind and what I put on paper was very apparent in my writing. I wrote gibberish. We were coming up on the deadline. I had my test in a few weeks and I was doing much better, but I still could not get down any kind of sentence structure. The week of was a lot of cramming and tutors. I had finally gotten down the concept well enough, and I was able to put together a decent paper and ended up passing by 5 points, a huge milestone for me. Now for middle school. Through the years, I was able to read on grade level and write papers with the help of my mother. My writing greatly improved, but only to a point because we did the standard 5-paragraph essay in middle school. My writing ability had plateaued. I had improved a lot since then. My focus was much better. I had a different work ethic, and my mother and I read a book a month throughout my middle school years. I did not know what I was getting into my freshman year of high school, but the first time in forever I had gotten an English teacher that would push me to become a much better writer. My mom wanted me to take an honors class, so I decided to take honors English that year because one of my friends said the teacher who taught it was amazing. While I was able to write the standard 5-paragraph essay, I had no clue how to write any kind of literary analysis. The first day of class, the teacher had asked who had written any kind of analysis. Everyone but me raised their hand. I was in for a long ride. Our biggest assessment for the year was the literary analysis of Lord of the Flies. While it was a very difficult read, my mind picked the book very well. When it came down to writing about the book, I could not get what I was thinking onto paper. At this point, I was failing, but this time around I had a teacher who cared. One day after class, she asked why I was not turning in my assignments, and I told her my situation, and we got to work. For the first time ever, I had a teacher who genuinely wanted to help me become a better writer and a student. I stayed after schools about 3 times a week. We'd often be there till 6 or 7 at night, and she would help me prepare for my paper. The end of the year came around, and it was finally time to write that last analysis paper. It was on one of the motifs. The analysis on the motif was very hard for me, as it was not a person, it was an object, and I had attached some kind of meaning to this object. It took me a long time, but I eventually finished the class with a C and got a B- on the paper. While the grade wasn't great, it was a hard-earned C, and I'm very proud of that. And to this day, any writing I do, I have my freshman English teacher and my mom to thank. While I still don't love writing, my love for reading has kept me close to my mom, as we still read 1 book a month with each other. Reading has also just kept my brain sharp and my mental state clear. Throughout many years of struggling to read and write, I have finally gotten to a point where I can do both at a fairly average level. Literacy has played a huge role in my life and has taught me dedication and patience. Through the many sleepless nights with my mom and late nights with my English teacher, it has taught me how to become a better student and a better person.